All right, what's up, everybody? Hello. Playing some music here. We're going to do this whole. It's even fade. There it is. It fades out. What's up? On a Thursday evening, if you're watching live, 9 p.m. We do it every weeknight, 9 p.m. at John Marks Media. That's on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. I think LinkedIn too. Not that I do anything on LinkedIn. But what's up, everybody? And if you're watching later, perhaps months later, days later, today was the trade deadline in the NBA. And the Sixers made some moves. We'll get to some of that coming up here in a second. Black Gritty's going to shoot the breeze with us tonight. We'll talk some Sixers, and then we'll talk about some other bullshit, which I like doing, the bullshit part. Sixers in a second. If you're wondering why I'm wearing my hat like this, now Pico sends me an energy bill weekly, and then it breaks it down by day. And I'm already the guy that I just walk around my house turning lights off. In the morning, girl, it's before you come down, turn all the lights out. Then I go upstairs, bathroom lights on, all the bedroom lights are on. So I'm trying to, and so I saw my bill, and it's like a mortgage payment, at least a small mortgage payment when I had a condo. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. So like I do the show in my basement, and it's on a separate heater down here, an electric heater. And I just was like, it's freezing, but I'll put my hat on. But anyway, what's up, everybody? People happy with the 76ers and the trade deadline? Yes, no, maybe so. I'll say this. And I wasn't obviously on the radio, and I didn't hear radio reaction to it. But I did a podcast earlier with my man AB, and he seemed like he had some questions. But so here's what I think. That they got Buddy Hield, and that's the most important thing that they could have done, is to get a legitimate three-point shooter, one of the best three-point shooters, maybe not this season, but historically and going forward. Whatever he was doing in Indiana, he was losing some minutes to some younger players. It was a big need of the 76ers, so I love it. It's an expiring contract. Obviously, the Sixers didn't want to add contracts in the future, which they should not have. So they still only have Joel Embiid under contract next year, and Tyrese Maxey will be under contract. But they're going to sign people first, and then they'll trade Maxey. So pretty much you're looking at Embiid and Maxey, and then nobody else signed. B-Ball Paul has a guarantee based on where the 76ers finish. I think it's partially guaranteed, but if they get to the second round or past the second round, it becomes fully guaranteed. Anyway, so I thought that was a good trade. Trade some veteran players that really, like, they were minor contributors. Furkan, he's been trying to get out of here for years. Bunch of second round draft picks. Who cares? All right. They traded Pat Bev for really what seemed like, are they just swapping him out for campaign and a second round draft pick to recoup a second round draft pick? Here's the only thing I can think. So then they traded Jaden Springer to the Celtics, which I thought was really weird because they didn't even get a player back. And then they traded Daniel House. So they were clearing cap space to get under the luxury tax, not to get too much in the weeds here, but they cleared some salary so they're not in the luxury tax because they're going to add salary. They're going to add players. They have 3 available spots now. So they clearly think that, at least this is my theory with Pat Bev, that the players that they think that they're going to acquire would have taken Pat Bev out of the rotation, that he likely wouldn't have been getting minutes. So why not move on from him, get a younger player that shoots the three a little bit better, and you get a second round draft pick? Again, I'm theorizing. I mean, frankly, Daryl Morey to me he's been stealing money for I don't know how long. This franchise hasn't gotten better since Daryl Morey's gotten here. The 76ers brought Daryl Morey in to put them over the top, to take a team that was close and add to them and become a championship team. And they've went backwards. Whether or not you blame Daryl Morey or not, the bottom line is that they're not any better. They haven't advanced. They're now on another coach. But I'm not gonna, my man, the Weasel, Mark Abrams, says, you if the Pat Bev and Springer trades are whack, no, it's true. Why all of a sudden was Pat Bev? He's a Hall of Famer. We just traded a Hall of Famer, Pat Bev. I like Pat Bev. I do. So what? If you're bringing in better players, again, I'm reserving judgment to see what's happening with the buyout market, because Kyle Lowry's out there, and I know he's 38 years old, but still, he's got a championship pedigree, and last year he actually played well in the playoffs. Honestly, does anybody think this team's winning anything this year anyway? Daryl Morey still has to try in the event, and I do believe Joel Embiid's going to be back. I don't think he's done for the year. He'll probably be back a few weeks before the start of the playoffs. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not likely to be enough. Even if he stayed healthy, I don't think that they're better than Milwaukee or the Celtics. But Daryl Morey, without giving up a first-round draft pick, is trying to add to the roster to put them over the top. But again, I'll go back with Daryl Morey, and you'll remember this. Remember how they needed to get tough? They lost that playoff series to the Heat, and they needed to be tough. Joel Embiid sat up there on the dais and said, we need to be tough. They brought up P.J. Tucker's name, so they get P.J. Tucker. They overpay P.J. Tucker. And they get Pat Bev this year. They need to be tough. They need to be tougher. Now those guys are gone. So are they tough now, or did they lose the toughness? Bottom line, this team's not good enough. And Daryl Morey has not done a good enough job to add to the team. Tyrese Maxey was a great draft pick, but like I said, Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey are really the only two players that are under contract for next year. He's going to have to fill out an entire team. So this is where he's supposed to make magic. This is supposed to be where he's great. He's this magician when it comes to wheeling and dealing and making trades and finding value. Second round draft, whatever it is, he's got a lot of work to do. So 76ers thumbs up, thumbs down. I'm seeing a lot of people that are not happy with what they did. And I'm okay with what they did today, but the big picture is this team remains not good enough. And Daryl Morey has this attitude of, oh, I'm doing a great job. As much as people want to get on Howard for his obvious disdain and how he treats the 76ers, I'm talking about Howard Eskin. He treats the 76ers much differently than maybe he treats some of the other franchises like the Eagles. Reality is the Eagles are one of the better franchises in the NFL. And Black Gritty's joining me in a couple minutes, and we went back and forth on his podcast about that. But the Eagles are one of the better franchises in the NFL. They've been in the playoffs 6 of the last 7 seasons. They've been in 2 Super Bowls. The 76ers have been to one NBA final. They won it in 83. They went to another NBA final in 2001. That's it. That's 40 years. They've been to one NBA final, and they lost. How many Eastern Conference championship games have they been to during that 40-year stretch? 2001, did I just say NFC? NBA Eastern Conference winners going to the NBA Finals, being in an Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, like, what are we talking about here? And Daryl Morey was brought in here to change that. Like any big-time executive that has the reputation of being one of the top head of basketball ops in the NBA. He's being paid a ton of money. He's making $10, $15 million, whatever it is. And where are we? We're trading Daniel House and Jaden Springer and whatever. I could sit here and say, I traded Jaden Springer to the Celtics, and the Celtics are a better franchise than the 76ers. The Celtics have a team that are ready to win right now. And a player like Jaden Springer to the Celtics, they can develop him. He's not going to play in the playoff rotation right now. He can be a guy that comes in for a couple minutes and plays defense. 76ers, they almost need something better than that right now. They can't afford, and they're dumping salary. They're trying to clear salary. So, Sixers aren't winning anything this year. At least it certainly doesn't look like that right now. And I'm not selling if I'm Daryl Morey. I'm not like, what are you selling for? You're selling for what? Like no one's going to take Tobias Harris unless you're getting what back in return. No one's going to trade you a first-round draft pick for Tobias Harris. And if you're getting players back in return, they have additional years on their contract. That's the thing. Like Buddy Hield. How's Buddy Hield right now only worth a couple of expiring contracts and second-round draft picks? Because he's in the final year of his contract. And there's nobody that wants to give up anything of real value for him. And there's a lot of talk. Paul George, if he doesn't re-sign with the Clippers, he could very much be on the 76ers radar. I'm sure he's going to be. Sixers are going to have a lot of cap space to go out there and make moves. They're going to have $50-60 million in cap space. So they're going to be able to make some moves, but it feels like that Daryl Morey just is like, well, I'll just add Paul George and that'll solve everything. The hell it is going to solve anything, right? Like we were already this is also already supposed to be solved with everything. Yeah, I would like Paul George too, but what has Paul George done in Los Angeles with the Clippers? All they've done is underachieve out there. So it's frustrating to be a 76er fan, even when I feel like, and I guess people disagree with me. Black Radio will come on and gives his opinion coming up in a second. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what people were expecting to get done today. So fire sale, they were trying to get out from underneath the cap, and Daryl Morey. This is the only thing I have to believe is that there's going to be 2 players at least that are getting bought out that are going to be coming to Philadelphia. So we'll see. We will see. But I wouldn't call the Sixers winners at the trade deadline. Buddy Hield's a good addition. But you would have to have the expectation that this team is a NBA Finals true contender, which I don't. We can debate what that really means. Like when I'll say the Sixers aren't a true contender, and I would have Elliot, ESP, that would say, "What do you mean they're not a contender? They were in the semifinals of the Eastern Conference." Like, okay, yeah, well, all right, maybe they're one of the best 8 or 10 teams in the NBA, but this team's not winning the finals this year unless Embiid comes back and for whatever reason you have this really weird lightning in a bottle, boom, everything rolls at the right time. But Sixers, first thing they got to do is they got to figure out how to win some games without Joel Embiid. They did not get a big. There's a lot of talk of Andre Drummond. So B-Ball Paul is going to be out there, and he has not done well since he set career highs in that game, and really since Embiid's been out, this entire team has sucked. Well, let's bring on Black Gritty from blackgritty.com, a very busy man wearing his Flyers jersey. Is that the Black Gritty Flyers jersey, BG? Oh, you're muted. Means I got to unmute you. What's up, brother? Can't unmute your guest. Their mic isn't connected.
Myself, because I didn't want to be wobbling while you were talking.
What's up, dude?
What's up, bud? Now, this is a Winter Classic. This is a throwback. This is a Gruyere jersey. My Black Gritty jersey is in the closet. I gotta lose like 5 more pounds. I puffed up too big for it, so I gotta throw in the Classic right now. But I'm happy about the Flyers. At least I know they're down right now, but they're trying to have a comeback, and it's the only team I can care about right now. I don't know what else matters. I don't know what else.
Oh man, you sound down. I saw some social media stuff from you, so I know what you think of Daryl Morey and his job today. But tell our audience here.
He's a trash panda and a waste of my time. He's never built a championship team. He's never won anything. I could have had Halliburton and Buddy Hield 3 years ago for Ben Simmons, but he wanted his son to come and play here. He wanted James Harden, and my goodness, how bad does that look now? I wanted Zach LaVine here 4 years ago, and everybody's like, "Oh, who's Zach LaVine?" And now everybody's begging for Zach LaVine. This is just an embarrassment. They're not a contender. They're not close. They're not going anywhere. And today was just a day of frustration. It's a TJ McConnell kind of move. I know that Patrick Beverley is nobody. I know that he is nothing. I know he gets traded 2 times a year every year. But for Philadelphia, sometimes it's just nice to have a dog that actually barks. You went out and overpaid PJ Tucker, who don't do nothing. And then I get Pat Bev up in here. He's riding around Kensington getting McDonald's out here in the streets. And at least he felt like Philadelphia. And when you trade him away for nothingness, what are we even doing? Like, I don't even have any joy in this team. Max is going to be out there killing himself with trash Tobias and so much stuff.
All right, so let's get Pat Bev's reaction here, Black Gritty, as he was on his podcast.
In Denver, and I hit Daryl Morey with, "Hey, I'm getting traded." You know. No, not you.
He's saying he asked Daryl Morey.
Yeah, directly.
So he's a liar.
What you guys think? Feel me? Like, you know, probably a big move that's about to happen. Certainly, you want to win right now. Player like me, I want to win right now. So, and I get a chance to be with Doc too, and my coach Rex. Ooh, it's lit. I can't wait.
So I mean, not bad for Pat Bev, right? He goes to the Bucks. I can't tell if he was trying not to laugh when he was saying he's back with his coach Doc. I know they were together with the Clippers, but it seemed like most of those guys ended up hating Doc by the end.
Everybody hates Glenn Rivers. The only people that tolerate him are the Celtics, who are still living off of one championship, more than any championship I've ever seen in my entire lifetime, more than any championship I've ever heard of. Their one championship is the one shining moment. When he said anything is possible, he meant I can keep this championship alive. Anything is possible. So go ahead and go back down there. And I'm just going to be ranting right now because I'm so upset about it. Glenn Rivers is down there 1-4 with the Bucks. He told you how hard it was going to be. He hasn't played one player under the age of 27. If Maxey wasn't forcing his way into being a star, we would not even have seen Maxey under his regime. He doesn't develop players. He kills players. It's so good for Pat because he gets to go be with a quote unquote better team, but they're run by a moron. So they're still not going anywhere.
Nope. They just handed the Celtics a spot in the NBA finals, most likely.
Yes.
By hiring Doc.
Yes. 100%. He's going to. I wish we would have more of a playoff presentation because I think going through him we could have gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals.
No, I agree with you. I really looked at this year as, I mean, even if it was matchup related, then lucking out to the Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, they haven't been able to do that before. They had the freaking Hawks to beat, and they couldn't do that. But yeah, I do think the Sixers, if this Embiid stuff didn't just happen, they could have made the final NBA, at least the Eastern Conference Finals.
So, you used to have a job on a popular radio station, and one of the replacements today, Spike came down to talk his talk, and they were yelling at a caller who was upset about the whole process. He's like, I've wasted 10 years of my life as what's the thing when you have tickets all the time?
Season ticket
holder. He's like, I sat through 10 lost seasons, and for what? We didn't do anything. And he's like, well, you've been a perennial, you won 50 games, you've been a perennial playoff team. He's like, yeah. And then Spike just shut him down and poo-pooed him off the air because some people don't know how to articulate themselves. But what I would have said is, in that time period, I saw the Denver Nuggets get a championship. I saw the Bucks get a championship and have back-to-back MVPs. So doing what you're doing and only getting out of the second round, it's not enough. The process is dead. The process has killed a community, a fan base from joy and happiness because you have nothing to show for it. The Celtics have been to a finals. The Celtics have been to Eastern Conference Finals. And did they suck? Did they have bad seasons? Of course. Did they purposely only win 9 or 10 games and trade away guys who have gone off in the league and done so many things? People want Mikal Bridges. Could we have had Mikal Bridges? Right? We could add him. He was our guy.
Sure.
Drew Holiday. Like all these guys you just named that just go off and do things. And it's like, man, at some point we could have actually had a team if you just built a team.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Bridges remember his mom worked for the 76ers and it was like the best thing ever. It was a need of the Sixers. He went to Villanova. His mom worked for the organization. And it's not just that. The player they got in return for him, how many games did he play as a 76er? I don't remember his name at this point.
3.5 games. Like, so that's so like, I feel like, when somebody says your team, your franchise, the city is cursed, that was such bad karma. You had Devon on the other night. That's his cousin, his family in the city on the radio, support. Ron worked for the Sixers. You had him in your hands and then you ship him off, breaking his heart, breaking multiple people's hearts in the city. And it's like, for what? This is what the problem is. We have this trash, I don't like ownership either, but when's the last time we had a real general manager that could build something or give me somebody from a tree that could do something? I had the Kalanja Clowns. Then I had Hinkie with his stuff. And then I had Elton Brand, who doesn't know anything about the job. And he was one of the worst trades to come here and get free money ever. Because that's all the Sixers ever do, get old players, bring them in here. So when people tell me, oh, you're crying over Pat Bev. I'm crying over some culture and having some fun with a guy who embodies Philadelphia. I'm crying like I cried over TJ McConnell, white lightning. At least the kid had heart. He went out there and played, and whenever he plays the Sixers, you're looking at him flying up and down the field, the court.
He can play.
And he can play. And I'm like, I just want somebody who's scrappy. If you ain't going to give me the wins, at least give me the grit. You know what I mean? Not for my namesake, but for the city's sake. Give me the heart. So we don't even have that. Like, it's like, and now I got Morey, who basically is a glorified queen, penguin, just a little bobbly, heavy breathing waddler. I'm fat. I don't breathe heavy like that. You've been around me. I'm a big man. This dude gets out of breath walking across the court. I'm so upset because I just want a real GM. I want somebody who's going to do something. So clearing cap space to get me way off P for what? PG-13 ain't did nothing in the playoffs either.
So he can try to buy success, right? Because a real GM, BG, you know what they do? They go out and they draft a couple players. They add a role player here. They add a second star. They add a third star. Maxey was a hell of a draft pick. Maxey is an all-star player. But that's what good GMs do. They don't try to buy it. And you can see what Daryl Morey's trying to do. He thinks it's going to say everything's going to be saved, but he thought it was going to happen with Harden. Getting James Harden. He thought James Harden was going to save everything. And it didn't.
And I'm not a capologist or a wizard, but there's not that many free agents available that are like stars that you think you're going to get. Like, so you're thinking like the Nick Nurse thing might get you Pascal Siakam. That's if he doesn't like being a pacer and not look at this team and say, well, why do I want to go there with Joel always getting hurt? Because that's the other thing too. Who wants to come here when you look at this team and say, oh, I'm going to bring 2 other stars there, but I need that guy to get me somewhere. And he's always hurt. So unless you tell me you're doing on a Kawhi Leonard plan where you play him only at home games to get him to the playoffs, why would I go there just to take your money? We've had money, John, and people don't come here.
No, it's not a destination. It's not. You would need other options to dry up for it. Like Paul George to me feels like he's staying with the Clippers, or he's staying out west. Do you really want to come play in Philadelphia? So we're yelling and screaming at him. You know what I mean? Like it's not. It like in the case with Tobias Harris, where it's like, you're going to max me? Oh, yeah, I'll play in Philadelphia for the next however many years, right? Jimmy Butler didn't want to stay here.
No.
Some of that might have been related to the coach and the organization and Ben Simmons, sure. But it's difficult to build via free agency. And I don't think Daryl Morey's gotten that memo just yet. Right? This is it. For me, this is his last stand. This is where he's got to do it now, because if this doesn't work, then what? Then what are you doing? And Bede's probably at that point going to be like, get me out of here. And you know what? Like, I can come to my senses after the playoffs and I'm mad at Embiid because he acts like a jackass and they lose. And I can say, you know what? The best possible way to win or the best course of action going forward is with Embiid.
Yeah.
You get rid of Embiid and you add draft picks and a couple of players, you put Maxey out there. You're a 6 or a 7 seed. And with no chance of upside. And do you have confidence that Morey could take Joel Embiid and spin him into a couple of really, really good players that can actually make the team better? I certainly don't.
So there's a sucker born every day, but I do think, again, we just get blessed with morons here. I look at every time somebody says they want to trade Joel Embiid and you're not going to get equal value, I think they gave up a king's ransom for Rudy Gobert.
Yep.
5 first-round draft picks, players, second-round draft picks. I think they gave it like 7 picks total for Rudy Gobert. You've got to get like 19 picks for Joel Embiid. I mean,
but draft picks for Gobert's limited offensively, right? So obviously he's there for the defense and rebounding, and he's a league defensive player, right? Like the defensive player of the year player. But offensively, he's pretty much a zero. A lot different with Joel Embiid. I'm not interested in 5 first-round draft picks that I don't even know where they're going to be. But to your point, that might be what you have to end up taking.
Yeah.
If you were to move on from Joel Embiid. I'm not there yet. So we'll see what happens this year. Let's do this, and then we'll move on to something less depressing. People are actually they're looking at you right now, and they're like, poor Black Gritty. Get Herb on tonight and try to cheer him up. You genuinely look down. You all right back there?
I'm really annoyed today about this whole trading, not trading. We didn't do anything. What do we? I really wanted him to do absolutely nothing. I wanted the trade line to come and go, and just deal with the fallout. Let Maxey do what he does. If Joel comes back to the playoffs, cool. Then you have your cap space. You get rid of Tobias, and next year you are ready for war to go do something. And we didn't do that. We made a whole bunch of moves and lit up Twitter. And Shams was out there, Twitter fingers, and killing it for nothing. Like, I feel like it was like, what even happened? I kept seeing Sixers, and I'm like, we didn't even do anything.
You got Buddy Hield.
Ferkie's gone now. Everybody's happy about that. The Cork Monster's out.
Thank God they finally got rid of him. He's been trying to get out of here for 3 years.
Yeah. So that was the one good thing. I got a lot of texts about that. People were happy about that. They're like, oh, well, at least we did that. I'm like, okay, we did something.
All right, buyout. Because do you agree that Morey thinks that they're getting at least 2 players on the buyout that's going to get bought out here?
Yeah.
If not more, there's 3 open roster spots.
So you're going to go get Lowry, huh?
All right, so let's start here. Kyle Lowry's currently a Charlotte Hornets, though, right? So they didn't buy him out. You interested? He's 38 years old. I mean, he looks 38 years old, too.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry, at this point, again, Patrick Beverly is a much better basketball player than Kyle Lowry. But sure, bring in Kyle. He played for Nick Nurse. Like, he's still got some. No, he doesn't, but we're going to bring him in here. And if he comes here, you know that he just wants to check because nobody else wants him either. He's washed. But yes, bring him here. Who else you got?
Seth Curry, who's defensive liability, but still is a good 3-point shooter. He could be
for the mojo and for the lifestyle. Bring him back. He's only Curry I like besides Dell.
But also he is just a pure rotational guy that's coming in, probably getting 10 minutes a night at most, shooting a 3, but good situationally at the end of games and things like that when you need a 3.
When you're throwing it into the corner instead of PJ Tucker sitting there, he sits there. Which
Evan
is
Fournier, possibility. Spencer Dinwiddie, who actually isn't on a roster right now, so he's free to sign. He's really kind of went backwards this year, but he's an Alec. I saw Alec Burks was traded again today. He's back to the Knicks. He was a Knick before he was a Sixer. Every trade deadline, Alec Burks is getting traded somewhere.
Him and Pat Beverly, like man, y'all just need to like keep a roommate in every city so you can just pop in and pop out like you're just moving around.
All right, so that's 27 minutes of Sixers talk, which is about 20 more minutes than I wanted to talk about him because, like you, man, it is
it doesn't feel good. That's all. It just feels like nothing happened, and now I don't feel good about it. If nothing would happen at all, I would have been annoyed, like, oh man, we didn't do anything. But watching all that unfold and I'm like mad is even worse because nothing really happened.
No. Yeah, you're right. Nothing really happened. Buddy Hield, that was a good trade. You agree? Getting Buddy Hield for a couple expiring contracts and some seconds, but ultimately it doesn't matter. I guess we'll find out.
Gave the Morris twin the key to the city and then kicked him out 2 weeks later. Like, my goodness. Don't give me a key to the city. Well, bring Lowry in here and give him the key to the city and see how long he lasts. See
if he can take the key. Give him the Morris key when he comes in and say, all right, listen, you guys can share this since we just traded him. And they must have done that because they knew the trade deadline was coming up.
Yeah. I'm locking the city out on my way out. I'm not letting nobody back in. I'm taking this key with me. I'm hanging it over my bedroom, my new spot.
Well, BG, it is chilly in my basement. I said it in the open. But I am short on money, and the Pico bill is relatively high. I don't currently have an OnlyFans account, but if people wanted to see my naked hairy body, I guess for money I would do that.
You can get some change. There's some weirdos out there.
So there's a radio show that I listen to in Boston, and one of the contributors on the show during COVID started selling pictures of her feet. And it wasn't an OnlyFans account, but I forget how she got involved in it. But she had said the story on the air where she was selling pictures of her feet, and she's hot. She's a good looking blonde. So maybe like a hairy male foot fetish. Does anybody out there have that? Probably not.
It's probably a foot finder, or what's it called? Feet finder. Feet finder. That's
is there a feet finder website?
Yeah, there's like 2 of them, but Feet Finder is the big one. You pay $60, you put your pictures up there, your videos up, you put one picture up, and the rest of them are blurred out. and then you sell the packages. You know what I mean? You want to put some whipped cream on your feet? That's $4.99. I'm dipping my toes in some water. That's $6.99. I got a 4K video of me running barefoot through the snow. That's $29.99. So I mean, you can get your feet out there. You know what I mean? Somebody's out there looking for Bigfoot feet.
Now, how do you know so much about this, Black Gritty?
I know about everything. You were saying earlier about all the stuff that I do. I'm a photographer, videographer. I've shot pictures for girls who model and do OnlyFans, work at the strip clubs and stuff like that. I do all kinds of fun stuff. So I know it's out there. Them feet be popping. People be, some people want to see your feet in some Uggs. Some people want to see mud on your feet. People are weird, man. People
Let me
are
tell you
weird.
something. This OnlyFans thing is, and I couldn't believe it when I'd heard the name and I'm like, well, what is it? And I'm like, hold on. So you get this, hot girl that goes on Instagram and builds up her Instagram followers so much by putting out, thong pictures and all that stuff. No nudity, but it might as well be. And then on the link on the account is like, oh, now go to OnlyFans. And you get, if they have 100,000 followers because they're hot and they're putting out pictures, they must be making bank just putting out a couple pictures a day on OnlyFans. And we're not talking about like porno type stuff. I mean, some of them do that. Some of these chicks just put naked pictures out of themselves. They got to be making thousands and thousands of dollars.
Well, my favorite thing is like if you think of somebody like Cardi B who has an OnlyFans, right? She's a stripper, so she's been topless and stuff like that. So she's basically, most of her stuff is in bikinis. They're skimpy little bikinis, but she's making $1 million a month. And I'm like, you can see her shaking everything in a rap video. You don't need to do that. Like, why are you doing that? Yeah, she just recently shut it down because she felt guilty because she's a mom. Basically, she went out there and did it for a year, made $14 million, and then shut it off because she already made $14 million. And the rapper Ty Dollar Sign, he was making like $3 million a month, because there's not a lot of male whatever out there. So people out there making free money. Matter of fact, I know people that have podcasts that are on OnlyFans and they just interview hot girls and put it on there, and they're not even naked. They're just asking them, all kinds of random stuff. And so you can do a lot of stuff on OnlyFans. You can do artwork and draw pictures of noodles and whatever you want to do. It's out there.
Oh my God. Yeah, there you go. As if Bayless says, this really is like anytime you listening to me or you, BG, at any point we could be talking about anything. So
it can get random, but I know a lot about a little about a lot. About a lot. There you go.
I could see that. All right, Brian Johnson gets a job in Washington with the Commanders. And have you seen exactly what the job is? I just saw like the one headline was like a very important job.
It is
in the organization.
The Nick Sirianni of explanations about an offensive position. He is a quarterback offensive passing
game coordinator. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what that means per se, and Viennemy's still there, right? They haven't fired him yet.
But he's going to be let go.
I mean, are they? This is such a bad organization. He should have been let go. Why is he still there?
He could have gotten the job. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you're holding on to him, I feel like he's still going to be there. But everybody keeps telling me he's going to be fired. Like, at what point do you fire him? And then if you bring in Johnson and he's just a pass offensive coordinator, are you trying to keep Vienemy and then keep Johnson there because he's more user friendly to younger players, right? Instead of Vienemy running everybody the wrong way? I don't understand what they're doing. I don't get it at all.
No, I don't either. But the Super Bowl's a couple days away. Sodfather was fired. Did you see that? Sodfather not at his first Super Bowl in like 50 years.
I thought he retired last year after his whole fiasco. They fired him?
Well, I mean, the headline is this will be the first without the Sodfather, George Toma.
Yeah. I think he retired last year. I think after all the thing went down, he said it was going. He's like 95 years old.
We should have been doing it last year.
I don't even think he was doing it. It's like being the president. They put you on a plane, you get toilet paper on your feet, they have you sign things, you go wave and shake a baby. You're not doing anything. That's what Congress and everybody else is for. Like, I don't feel like the Sodfather's really out there like measuring soil. He's got a whole company.
Measuring soil.
You know what I mean? Like, he's got a company that he's built up and an empire. He's just the scapegoat. So they can say, oh, well, he's on his way out. He was 95. What do you expect?
No, you're right. So they bring somebody else in, and then like no one will talk to him or anything like that. Like he's trying to get a meeting with Goodell, and Roger Goodell's like, I'm not meeting with the Sodfather. so he can tell me it wasn't his fault. They don't fucking care.
No.
They just want to bring some other schmo in.
And the fields are already being complained about by the 49ers. Their practice fields are already apparently bad and terrible and whatever. So you got rid of the sodfather for what? You're still having field problems? How? How's that possible?
So a lot of people chiming in and saying that Bieniemy was let go and Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator. But to what Blackguardy is saying, he hasn't officially been let go by the organization. Dan Quinn had said that they're not going to be working together, but he still hasn't been officially let go by Washington, which is what's begging the question of, well, what exactly are they doing? Are they having second thoughts about him moving on? Are they holding on to him so he can't sign with other teams? They're trying to use it as a competitive advantage. I don't know. But yeah, Kingsbury's the offensive coordinator. But I don't believe that Bieniemy's actually been let go yet. Everything I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, well, I see said on Wikipedia. I don't know. It's either way, they're a poorly run franchise. And they still are poorly run. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen there with Magic Johnson and Harris and their whole team of people, and everybody wants to be an owner and cry at the podium and be happy that they bought the team. What they need to do is just shut down for a year, get out of the league, forfeit all the wins, and build a new stadium. But that's just me.
Oh,
that's how bad the Commanders are.
Well, poor sodfather and his, he goes out with what a great career that he had, and like his last song of his career, and it goes
a stain on his name.
It is.
The sodfather means nothing now. It's I think about that. Like, it's like, oh man, it's like Tyson going out and biting Holyfield in the ear without being able to go out and go have a movie career afterwards. Like Tyson resurrected himself, but at the time it was like, man, Mike. Why'd you bite his ear, Mike? You
ever meet Mike Tyson?
Huh?
You ever see or meet Mike Tyson?
I've seen him up close. I didn't get to meet him, and I don't want to ever meet him. Technically speaking, he was on a Radio Row. Every time there's like the Super Bowl Radio Row, especially if you work in media, like at least I used to. So there's a lot of people that I know that are taking pictures, and there's a lot of Radio Row pictures this week. And I love Radio Row. I would love to be out at the Super Bowl. I would do it every year. I didn't want to go unless the Eagles were in the Super Bowl. And even then, he probably would have rather stayed home than go. I love doing the Radio Rows. I used to do boxing Radio Rows. Yeah. Well, I used to do boxing Radio Rows and UFC Radio Rows, and that's where I saw Tyson in Vegas. They brought him around. I forget which fight it was, but they brought him around, and you got him for like. So they give you like slots to where it's like, all right, like if you're lucky enough to sign up or somebody that can actually hook you up, because there's 50 people there, there's probably 8 instances where you can interview Mike Tyson, and that's it, then he's gone. So I had it. So it's like, all right, you have him at 1:00. So now it's 1:10, it's 1:15. You're supposed to get 10 minutes. They come over, they're like, oh, we only got like 6 minutes with him or whatever. So literally, I asked him one question, and he rambled on, and I don't even know what he was talking about. And then they took him away. But yeah, he's a pretty intimidating dude. Anybody that would talk shit to him in an airplane or wherever, I don't know what they're thinking. So he, as an older man, he has become more tame, but he's still a lion. He's probably like, even just growing up and just looking at him, watching him, he's one of the only people that I have feared, like just thinking about that person. Like I'm not the biggest, baddest person in the world. I'm just saying, I'm just walking around like there's not people that I fear per se that I don't even know. I just look at him and I've seen him, and the way that he talks, the way he spoke, I'm like, yo, this dude will rip you apart. Like he could rip you apart. And people try to run up on him now, like, hey, Mike, and he has reserved himself. He has gotten to this Zen state. But he still doesn't like people running up on him. Like there's little YouTube people try to run up on him in the street and do the little cannon
I wouldn't
thing.
do that.
And the one guy, he met him before. And he's like, hey, Mike, it's me. And Mike was like, yo, boy, he screamed quick. That's one person on planet Earth. And I'm like, man, he's like, I want to eat his soul. It's spinal. And then I just kill him and his whole family in the future, in the past. And I just want to look in his eyes and tell him that I rip him apart. I'm like, yo, bro. What is he?
Yeah, he's went through more stages than Madonna has, Mike Tyson. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like the current Mike Tyson.
Oh yeah. He's smoking weed. He's on
exactly. He's on cannabis pretty much 24/7.
Yeah. He's zoned out. But I mean, like I said, I don't care. I don't care if he's 90. I'm not trying to get hit by one of them. You know, that's the one hitter quitter, boy. He would lay out giants. So
oh yeah, for sure. No, he was he I mean, I was in like middle school, high school when he was at his height, and then once he went to prison and he came back, he was never the same.
yeah.
But early in his career, man, he was as feared as he was the would you agree he was the biggest athlete in the world?
Oh,
Like the heavyweight champion of the world now doesn't mean much, but even then with Tyson, that used to be the number one seed of any athlete in the world, pretty much up until Tyson, and then it kind of started going downhill from there.
like I said, just think about that. Not only was heavyweight the most important thing, it was the one thing where you feared a man. Like, okay, Bruce Lee was a ninja essentially, and he could probably do all kinds of crazy stuff to you. You didn't fear Bruce because you're like, hey, Bruce ain't never gonna hit me. I didn't do it. Bend like water. Like what? Chuck Norris. Hey, Chuck Norris is a little kung fu dude with a hat on. I'm not worried. Like you weren't worried about these other people that were physical specimens or great at their craft. You feared the heavyweight champion of the world, and you feared him even more so. Ali came out and he made it pretty and he made it sexy and he made it fun. He made it relatable and palatable to people. Mike Tyson was a gladiator, and no matter where you watched him at, it was must-see TV.
Sure was.
All across the world. Like people were like, oh, we watched Super Bowl. Yeah, okay. The whole world was watching Mike Tyson fight. And not only were you watching him fight, you'd had to sit there for 4 hours to sometimes only get 30 seconds to a minute.
Yep.
And it was over.
Well, Michael Spinks, my uncle was at the Michael Spinks Tyson fight, which lasted, was it 90 seconds? And the build-up for that, because Spinks was very successful, but he was more of a cruiserweight than a heavyweight, right? And that fight was over before it started. If you look at Spinks's face in the ring, he knew it was coming too. Tyson beat up on. He was a knockout artist, and that left hook he had, where no one saw it coming. It was, and boxing was big back then, though. Yeah. I remember it's crazy. I remember my aunt and my uncle, I remember where they lived, and they would always have everybody over for the fights. Even the George Foreman, when they kept bringing him on to hope that he would win, and he finally beat Michael Moore, but he had lost a couple times. But still, like, that's when heavyweight boxing was fun. And I don't even know who I actually, I don't even know who I would watch these days in boxing.
It's so bad and watered down, and it's like WWF right now, but I've been hit with a chair, a padlock, and a bat, and I still wouldn't want to get hit by Mike Tyson. Like, I would not want that.
It might kill you.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
again, I had a guy hit me he had a padlock wrapped around his knuckles because he was really short. So he figured he thought he needed some help when he hit me. And he hit me right in my temple. My eyes swole up like a balloon. And I'd take that 3 times over getting in the ring and taking one punch from Mike Tyson.
All right. Couple other things here before I know we're both of our times limited tonight there, BG. You see the story? I'm having Kevin Kincaid on. It's going to be 1:00. I'm going to stream it with him tomorrow. We're going to do like a media type interview, like 30 minutes or so. But have you watched any of the Jacob Media stuff? You're familiar with Jacob Media? They have a couple different shows. Jody Mack and John McMullen do a show in the morning.
Yeah.
They have the Eagles pre and post game show. Mike Miss does it. Seth. It's the network that Seth does the pre and the post.
Yeah.
For the Eagles. Well, Crossing Broad reported this week that Jacob Media, who is the owner of the company, isn't paying the employees, or when they are paying the employees, oftentimes it's very, very late, and it's after you're chasing them and saying like, "Hey, I still need to be paid." And he's like, "Yeah. Let me call you back," and then you'll hear back from him or whatever. So, I had heard similar things. And by the way, no one went on the record in the article saying that they were like. Here's what I've learned about myself. I would have been the one person that would have went on the record and been like, "Yeah, that fucking asshole owes me $8,000." Nobody else wanted to talk out about it.
I was going to ask if you learned a lesson from your mistakes. Or
no, here's the lesson I learned: that people appreciate honesty sometimes. And
people appreciate honesty. Your pockets sometimes don't. And depending on what it is, I'm an honesty person because I work for myself. I run my own ship, which is one thing I'll say before you finish your statements is just so you know, anybody who's watching, this is a gang war between Johnny Marks and I. I have warned him about going live on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock. I know the Crossing Broad does radio wars, but they're about to start covering YouTube wars because if you go on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock and take the small audience that I have, I see the people in the comments. Those are people supposed to be in my comments. They weren't in my comments because you're running on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock. I tell you what, Johnny Marks, you want some problems? I don't know. You're on 5 days a week. Take a day off. I don't know what you got to do, Johnny Marks. I don't know what you got to do. But if the war's about to start, I don't know if I got to start paying people to come over to my side. I'll start throwing out quarters. Okay, I got a little bit of change. Just watch it, Johnny Marks. You messing with my audience. YouTube wars. That's why my tag says YouTube warrior, Johnny Marks. I'm coming for you. You better stay in that basement. Keep the heat low, Johnny Marks.
I don't know what to do though, because I want to consistently do it Monday through Friday. And 8 o'clock I can't do because I wouldn't be ready at 8 o'clock. I'm barely ready at 9 o'clock, but I don't want to go at 10 because by 10, like right, I just drank another huge coffee, which means I'm going to get done here at 10 o'clock and I'm going to be up until 1 o'clock. My kid was up 3 hours again last night. So I tried to go sleep at 1 o'clock. I swear to God, I was asleep for 5 minutes. The kid was up at 3 o'clock. I'm still trying to get her to go back to sleep. And then she's up at 5:20. So I was absolutely dragging today. I was talking about yesterday about how sometimes that like as athletes or just as people in general, we just don't have it on certain days. Like you're low energy. Like some days you have your fastball, like with this. There's some days that I either went on the radio or I come on here and I'm like, man, I was good today. Today's not one of those days. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you have off days to where you're tired and shit like that. So
you know how it is because like when I call in and things like that, people are like, oh, you weren't like funny today. And I'm like, no, because I'm pissed off today. Like when I'm, my emotion and pitch changes. I'm not like always the same speed. Like normally it's funny and fast, but sometimes it's very aggressive and other times it's very lighthearted. Like, so, like you said, some days you got it, some days you don't. And sometimes I don't quote unquote call in or do something because I'm so angry. And you know me, I'm very good at not cursing and usually going overboard or whatever. But sometimes like things make you so mad. I'm like, I can't even call in right now. I will get bleeped off. Like I can't even.
You need to calm down.
I don't even make my videos sometimes because I'm so mad about the situation. Like when Joel got hurt, everybody's like, "Oh, what do you think about it?" I was like, the dude is out here doing wilt stuff, and now he's hurt again. I was so angry. I couldn't even make a video. Every video I made was so negative and aggressive. I just didn't even post any of them. I just like I'm taking a week off.
So what is your Instagram handle? Because you have been doing, and I've seen that your numbers have grown too. Your followers you're doing dynamite stuff on Instagram right now. How do people follow you if they're not already?
Black Gritty on Instagram and on TikTok, but Instagram is way more fun because TikTok does not let me post all the fun stuff that I do. I'm excited that baseball's coming back. I got a lot of Diamondback fans that are still following me. I got a lot of 49ers fans that are still following me. I can't wait to break their hearts after this weekend with the Super Bowl. So if you're on the gram, follow your boy Black Gritty, and on Twitter, you just go to blackgritty.com. It'll take you to my Twitter. You can get there. You'll find me.
There you go. That's why you're Black Gritty from blackgritty.com. All right, you gotta give me this because you're one of the most notorious Philadelphia sports radio callers. What is going on with Chuck from Mt Airy? I heard from a couple people in the comments section that he still has not called back and spoken to Ike and Jack. Is he banned from the show? Or is he just not called back in?
So one thing that makes me angry, and I'll say this because I did my show the other day, and since you were a guest on my show last week, somebody was like, oh, you need to get, Chuck on and blah, blah, blah. And it was in the comments. So I just made it very clear. I do not like Chuck. I've never liked Chuck. And the reason I don't like him is firstly how he treated you. And you and I, like I've said things you've said are dumb, and I've been aggressive with you, but I've never disrespected you to the point where I felt bad as a man talking to another grown man doing his job on the air. And when the way he talks to you, and then he ended up doing it to Jack, like he does it to certain people, but he doesn't do it to everybody. And I don't like that. Like keep that same energy. When you see me at the lives, and we come out and see you guys at the lives, don't try to be my friend when you're being so disrespectful. So he's not calling back Jack and Ike right now, but I heard him call the midday show, so he's not banned from the station, even though he's multiple times he's dropped cuss words. By the grace of goodness, Bryce saved his calling career because it's kind of like you can't kind of let him go, but he just gets so unhinged with his rhetoric because it is rhetoric. I call once a day now. Sometimes I would call twice a day if something really got to me and it made me like, argh. But he's calling 3 times a day with the
Each
same
show.
rant about
Yeah.
Joel Embiid. It's like, okay, it's scripted. You're saying, dude, I already heard you say this 3 minutes or 5 minutes 2 times already today. I don't need it one more time. So apparently he's just trying to punk them and act like he doesn't need them because he makes the radio. He made you, Johnny Marks. I don't know if you know this, but he made your ratings. He helped he did everything himself.
I heard it. Yeah, I heard it. And I'm not. We talked about it on here. I'm not offended at all.
I know you're not. I'm offended. That's why I said I'm speaking for myself. It bothers me. I'm not even speaking for you. It bothered me. I don't like it. I just don't like that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not like OG Wade where I like take certain things disrespectful, but like, man, we're all adults. I know it's sports and things get heated, but my goodness, you hear, like I said, if I call you a doofus magoofus or something like that, I love you, Johnny Marks. Like, we could disagree. You know, you said one of the dumbest things I ever heard on the airwaves. You said, might as well throw Sudfeld out there. And I almost drove my car into a tree. And I was like, you know, I knew what you meant, but it still made me mad because at the time we were injured, we were down. And that's not the thing that you want to hear when everything is already going bad. But I still wouldn't disrespect you directly. I wouldn't do it. It's not my thing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, people are saying that Chuck got a big hit after Bryce Harper. Well, clearly getting shouted out nationally, Bryce Harper hit a home run for you. Did a certain thing to Chuck.
Yeah. And to be fair about that, I was happy about that for Chuck. I'm not a hater. Like, I was like, oh, that's cool. Because, you know, as somebody, like I tell, you know, I've been saying it since we got him. I said, thank you, Bryce, for choosing me. Because as we talked about the Sixers, no one ever comes here. And I don't care that he took $300 million. Everybody was offering him $300 million. He came to this city. He brought his family. He's in the community. He's out at Home Depot taking pictures with people. Like, he chose me. And I'm so thankful that a face of a league chose me when he had other options. So I you know, that was great for Chuck. That was great for Raider. That's great for America. But yeah, that's that.
And OG Wade may be joining the show next week as well. I texted him, and he said that he's like, well, you never, you know, like he said, you got to bring me on your show. I'm like, sure, yeah, no problem. But then like I haven't heard from him since. So I texted him. I'm like, I'm like, you got to come on and state your case why everything's great with the Eagles and there's no problem.
Now it's about college. Got to get that knowledge about college.
Well, we got that. Well, BG, listen, for everybody else, because BG's got something that he's doing at the top of the hour here. I'll stick around for a little bit.
Yeah, I gotta. What time is I got? Yeah, I got another show. I gotta go get on with my guests. But like I said, YouTube Wars, fix it, Johnny Marks. I'm coming for you. And anybody who's watching, I got 25 cents. What's your Cash App? What's your PayPal?
Tuesday at 9. Don't tune in for Black Gritty Show because you'll be watching me.
See, Wars. Put it on Cross and Broad. I'll talk to y'all.
All right, BG.
Later, buddy.
All right, there he is, BG. I want to read an email here on Herb. And like when you're on the radio and you have the callers and everybody talks about the callers, and I get it. Like Philadelphia is so different, and we'll talk about this tomorrow because there's this sports media website that ranks all the radio shows based on the day parts. They do a top 20 or a top 25, whatever, locally and nationally. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But every city is different. I listen to a lot of radio from around the country. In some cities, they don't even try to take phone calls. Right? It's not a thing at all. They'll do like heavy guests, like guest after guest after guest. Some cities have a mix in between. They'll take phone calls, but they're not doing kind of what we do in Philly, which is topic radio. We're talking about things. And a lot of times when you call in, you're calling in on a specific subject. But when in Philly, we have these callers that have become personalities that, as we know, have, are notable. And Herb from Northeast Philly is certainly one of them. Whenever Herb would come on, I would always get reaction. And you just like, how much is too much with Herb? Because he would pretty much call in every show every day if you put him on. He would call Joe and Hugh and be on the air at like 1:50. And then he'd be calling back and talking to Jack at like 2:05, trying to get on the air in the next segment. Where it's like, Herb, you got to at least space it out. Call at 4:00. We can't have you were just on 15 minutes ago, but like So you don't know how much is too much, but he's been on here twice in like the month that we've been doing this. And I mean, I can't get enough of this guy. He's he's hilarious. He really is. He is, and he doesn't know it, but he's funny. And I genuinely like him. I do. So he was on 2 days ago now, and he was, and I was goofy already, and I couldn't stop laughing. He is, you got to check it out. If you haven't seen it, you should already subscribe to my YouTube, John Marks Media, and it's archived there. My two most viewed, well, actually, no, that's not true. But my most viewed video is Herb, the first time he was on, and he was even better this time. But I got a couple emails about Herb, and I encourage everybody out there that is watching to email me, johnmarksmedia@gmail.com, and I'll read them on the air. Any comments that you have, I'll read on the air. It's from Ralph. Ralph says, please consider having Herb as a regular on the YouTube channel at least once a week. Herb is my favorite caller on WIP, and the few minutes he's on the air is never sufficient. Hearing Herb ramble on and on about his life and background is gold content. This is what makes Herb my favorite caller person to listen to. In all seriousness, please allow Herb some time each week to let him express himself and entertain us with his life's stories. And that's from Ralph. Ralph, thanks for listening. Thanks for the email. Yeah, so if you don't know, Herb is saying that he's going to write a book, or he's writing a book, which we all know he's not currently writing a book. But when he comes on and he talks about it, he actually does have enough stories to where you could cleverly write a book. And he gives you bits and pieces of it. The story that he told this week was that he owned a flower shop that was right by City Hall. And he had told us this on the air before. And you never know what to believe with Herb, because he says he knows Andy Reid and he has Andy Reid's number. And we all know he doesn't. And he knew Buddy Ryan, whatever. But some of the stuff he does say is true. And you know how we confirmed he had this flower shop? Harold Carmichael knows Herb, or knows who Herb is, because he used to go to this flower shop. So he remembers him from the flower shop. Herb is very memorable. He remembers him from the flower shop. So he did have this flower shop. So he told the story that, I'm like, well, what happened with the flower shop? He got robbed and tied up in the back of the flower shop. And he's telling me this story, and I just couldn't stop laughing. During that whole stretch of the interview, I couldn't contain myself. So we have a couple of ideas for Herb. Oh, is Herb a weekly feature on the show, or is that watering it down a little bit too much? It's like with Darren Sproles. Darren Sproles, if you use him as an every down back, not going to be effective. You give him 10 touches a game, effective. Herb isn't Darren Sproles, but once a week seems a little bit too much. Bi-weekly. I agree. I think the frequency is bi-weekly. I was trying to get him on last week, but he's always got, I got this going on, I got that going on. So now I'm doing it at 9 o'clock. As long as he's not working, he should be able to jump on. But we got to come up with some fun ideas to do with Herb. A lot of people were saying, like, everybody submits questions, and I'll ask Herb 20 questions from the audience, and he has to answer, which would be unbelievable. Yeah, and as far as his book, every other week we get an update of where he is, so he can make stuff up, and he can say that he's currently writing the book, which we know he's not. Also with Herb, this idea, and Steve Gallo, who is now and he'll be back tomorrow night. He's now my producer of the show, and he had an idea where we set an over/under, and we see how long. Like, we do a 6 or 7 minute over/under. I think we talked about it at the end of the show last night, and I just leave the camera and just let him ramble and see how long he'll go for. He may go over 6 or 7 minutes. Once he gets going, even when you talk to him, you just got to stop him. No bi-weekly for Herb. All right. Well, there you go. My man Bobby Bachman has an idea, hanging with Herb every other week. Ask Herb, Kevin Rogers. This is what I'm saying. For everybody that'll tell me, like, oh, fuck Herb, he sucks. The feedback I get from Herb is always, even when I go out, I go out somewhere, people are like, should have brought Herb to your appearance. You would have had more people here. And I'm like, you're right. I would have. But all right. I say every other week to me sounds good. I'm not going to want to probably talk to him next week. But we could try to do stuff with him. I have a bunch of voicemails on my phone from Herb. I just like to text him sometimes to see, because if he's not doing anything, he'll call you immediately. Hi, Herb. Let's see. And he was able to figure out how to get on too. So as far as the better video setup, isn't it kind of fitting that he's laying down and he looks as bad as he does? I don't know if we need a better video setup for Herb. Here's something from Bobby Bachman. Richard in Lansdale. Was he a real caller? Did we ever see him in person? I don't know for him to be fake. There was one time when he was inside a restaurant and I guess he was eating, and he started to, he sounded like a normal person. And I was like, hang on a second. Like, who is this? Like, you don't sound like you. This doesn't sound like you, Richard. And then the next time he called, he is like, rah, 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 rah. So I think he definitely puts on an act. But there was a couple times we were up in his area, and he was saying he was coming down to meet us, and then they never showed up. And I asked him about it, and he said he got cold feet, that he he got scared and didn't want to come down. And honestly, did I really want to meet Richard in Lansdale? The answer is probably not, in all seriousness. I'm not sure you don't need to meet everybody that you talk to. Cowboy Jim, I would love to have Cowboy Jim. I just don't have his number. I would love to bring him on. He would probably love to come on too, but I haven't. What was Cowboy Jim saying after the Cowboys lost in the playoffs? Did he not call, or is that's what you miss about being on the radio, is the live interaction from all the idiots that call in. But anyway, all right. Tomorrow at 1:00, I'm going to be streaming Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad. We're going to talk about some media subjects, including Jacob Media not paying their employees, the future at the Fanatic, what that lineup could potentially look like. How about Tony Romo and Jim Nantz on the call here for the Super Bowl? Nantz seems like he's totally. Did anybody else listen to these games this year to where you can just tell that Jim Nantz wants nothing to do with working with Tony Romo? Romo will say like this spazzy thing that makes no sense, and there'll be this awkward silence because Nantz either doesn't want to or doesn't know how to respond to it. Oh my God, it's just that went from being everybody's darling broadcast and Romo's making $18 million a year to pretty much nothing. Like, just people, like the executives at CBS are trying to figure out how to fix them, and it certainly didn't work this year. So we'll talk about a lot of that stuff, and we'll also talk about. I might do this on the show tomorrow night, but the Marks and Reese show continues to be in this national list of radio shows, and you have like the national shows like Colin Cowherd and Dan Patrick, and those shows are ranked. But then you have all the local shows nationally, and they do day parts. So it's like one day they'll do the best morning shows, the next day is middays, and then today they released the afternoon shows. And we were disrespected once again. My final chance to reach high in the rankings, and we were disrespected. So we'll talk about that at least some point tomorrow. I don't know if it'll be with Kevin Kincaid. And we'll be back tomorrow live at 9:00. So Kincaid at 1 streaming live, and then we'll come back and do the regular hour at 9:00. Everybody have a good night. Remember to subscribe and follow me on all social medias at John Marks Media. See ya.